The last time I made a video on BudokaiZ was 9 months ago, and one of those videos took off and became my highest viewed video to date. At the start I did enjoy playing Budokai, but after the first month of playing, the enjoyment just wasn't there. There wasn't much to do besides training and fighting NPCs, so eventually I stopped playing like everyone else. But since then, there's been countless updates to improve the overall experience. Seeing how this game costs 200 Robux, I'd say that it's getting closer to the point where purchasing this game might be worth it. In order for me to show all the improvements that were made, I didn't just go back to my old slot and continue where I left off. I went and created a whole new slot from scratch to really get the feel of how it is barely starting out. I'll admit that starting all the way from scratch can be really slow paced and overall a boring introduction. And after a while I realized I made a mistake starting over. Also, for those of you who have played this game before or any hardcore Dragon Ball game, I can confirm that the community is still toxic. Luckily for me, the first dude I got jumped by wasn't very strong and terrible at the game. Surprisingly, this player was somehow a bounty hunter and the only one I encountered for the whole month of December. After this new bounty hunter got humiliated by a fresh spawn, I thought I would encounter more bounty hunters as I accumulated more playtime. Long story short, like I said before, I didn't encounter any other bounty hunters. The reason for that might be the dwindling number of active players. But at the time I knew the only way to defend myself was to get stronger, and in order to do that I couldn't stay on planet Vegeta to rot away with the other Saiyans. I got in my space pod and headed to Earth, and now we finally got to the problem I mentioned 9 months ago, and it seems that there was no improvements made. I find it hard to believe that this is the best you can do with space flight. The overall flying control is still janky and just awkward to fly in space. It's not that big of a deal at the start since you don't really travel through space a lot, but late game it's definitely a problem going planet to planet. When I touched down on Earth, I got straight to training to improve my overall power. In all honesty, I got one of my friends with a high battle power to let me leech. And if that's cheating, I don't know what to tell you. I played these similar Dragon Ball games more than anyone, so I wasn't about to grind all over again. My friend also gave me a decent outfit with better stats to start off with, but with my off-screen training I had a huge power boost and was ready to take on Beerus and Brawly for a quick sparring session. But before then I headed over to the Majin planet to pick up Pudding and an energy bar, because apparently you need to feed these guys in order to spar with them now. It's a tedious thing to do, but makes zero sense that you have to go to the Majin planet for Pudding and energy bars, which are both things made on Earth, but I guess they had to make the planet relevant somehow. The next stop was Planet Vampa, which is where you can find Brawly. Once these sparring sessions were added into the game, I can see why everyone who still plays has a ridiculous power level. It's a quick and easy way to get stronger without doing much. The only bad part is you have to wait 24 hours to spar with them again, which actually makes sense because the people that never get off the game would be even more overpowered if it didn't have a cooldown. After my sparring session with Brawly, I was more than prepared to challenge the God of Destruction Beerus, or at the very least the BudokaiZ version. In the Trello it says Beerus is a better fighter than Brawly, but Brawly hits harder. All I saw from sparring Beerus was infinite stamina. He does nothing but Z-vanish to get behind you when you attack him. But even with the 10-minute sparring session with Beerus, I wasn't even close to obtaining my Super Saiyan form. I did however max out all my skills I had so far, which was good enough for now. After that fight, it just so happened that the Earth I spawned on was getting attacked by Saiyan invaders. So I guess this is a good time to show you the new event that happens on certain planets. The Saiyan invaders land with a total of 6 enemies to face. There are 5 low-class warriors I'm assuming, and the middle one is the Saiyan invader leader. The only difference with the leader besides the clothes is he has a transformation he uses mid-fight to give him a slight power boost. But like every NPC in Budokai, they scale with your power, so all you have to do is go to 10%, hit them away, and then go back to 100. But the reason you should do these events is to get better clothes and accessories. After defeating all the invaders, a chest will appear, and honestly pray you get a gold chest, cause the regular chests are ass and I mainly use them for money by selling the items to Bulma. I also forgot to mention that NPCs can drop loot boxes and loot keys. Loot keys have to be the worst thing to get because eventually I had around 12 to 15 loot boxes and no keys. Also, while I still have the clip of Energy Wave, can you please do something to fix the sound? There's no reason for the skill to have such a loud sound effect compared to every other skill in the game. This is also the same shit from Xeno Online, so if you're gonna use it, at least make it better. After seeing that the hot and cold weather system was completed on the Trello, I made my way to the coldest planet in Budokai to get some real gains. Polaris can get as cold as -200 degrees, and the Trello doesn't specify whether it's Fahrenheit or Celsius, but either way, those are 2 insanely cold temperatures. I got straight to training because my first goal of becoming a Super Saiyan was close. However, I was soon taken to the other world due to the overwhelming cold temperatures of the planet and the stupid fact that we get combat tag when sparring with our shadows. I would have been okay if it wasn't for the combat tag, but there wasn't much I could do after that. It was also a good thing I made it to heaven before I became a Super Saiyan. I had to make the most out of my situation and traveled down Snake Way to reach King Kai's planet. Once I made it to the end of Snake Way, it was finally time to meet King Kai. If you end up on his planet, the first thing you'd want to do is go directly to King Kai. If you aren't already accustomed to the gravity, you'll have to train until you are. Then when you talk to him again, he'll unlock your latent power bar on the bottom right of the screen, which didn't work for me. It might have been the fact that I didn't train before talking to him, but it didn't matter too much. If you talk to him again with the power level of 9,000 or more, he'll teach you the Spirit Bomb technique. The last skill is the Kaioken technique. You'll have to be above 12,000 BP in order to learn it. So it's kind of a good thing to die early before you're super strong, because you'll lose 50% of your BP when you die. After you cruise through the lessons he has for you like I did, then all that's left to do is to train until the timer runs out. After I came back to life, I went through some tough, rigorous training to try and become a Super Saiyan, but soon realized that Zenkai boosts are terrible if you aren't filling your latent power bar. After a while, I honestly wasn't even using Zenkai unless I was at 100% latent power, because you really don't gain anything when it's at 10 to 15%, which is around what it'll be after you get to 95% fatigue and have to rest again. Also, just so you know, don't use any Senzu beans because it'll use up your latent power bar as well. As I was getting back into the game, there was also a combat update that I haven't talked about. The lock-on system now reaches a lot further than it did before, but it also started to lock on to people behind you when trying to lock on to people in front of you. But for now, I think we can all agree that it fixed the camera issue when being locked onto someone that was directly in front of you. Before, it would create a blind spot and you wouldn't be able to see where your opponent was until you flew to the left or right to angle the camera. There was also 2 heavy combos added in, which will either do a couple of punches then hit your target up, or the other one that does a couple of kicks and hits your opponent straight away from you. This was definitely an improvement from the previous combat, but the only issue I have now is combos with beams tend to not go where they're intended to be half the time. I think something had to have messed up when making the new combat, because missing this much shouldn't be a thing. Also, while I have this clip available, why can't we double tap Y to lower our power instead of having to spam click it? It's a feature in the game for boosting your power to 100%, so why isn't it a thing for 10%? It would make it more efficient because I'm already having to reach across my entire keyboard to click Y and U. A little later, it was time to do my daily quests again and I went to go spar with Beerus. But I found myself back on Polaris and it just had to be the coldest temperature it could be. At the time, I didn't even know if he was actually on the planet because he moves around, so I was definitely relieved to see him there. Any longer in the cold and I could have been sent back to Otherworld. Long story short, during my sparring session with Beerus, it finally happened. I unlocked my power within and became a Super Saiyan. This honestly felt like the longest part of the journey because after I unlocked this transformation, it was smooth sailing from here on out. I started off with my regular hair as a Super Saiyan transformation, but I re-rolled it for Vegito's hair because in my opinion it looked the best. There was a lot more that happened along the journey, but I made it to the last topic I wanted to cover in this video. On planet Namek, there's now a wave defense event that spawns from time to time. Like every game that has waves of enemies, with each wave it gets more difficult and the number of enemies increase. It can really get overwhelming if you aren't prepared enough. But as you go through, you'll also fight bosses that can drop rare items and skills you can only get from them. It's a cool feature and it also gives you something to do once you've maxed out everything and have nothing better to do. Sadly though, the furthest I got was past Zarbon to wave 11, but that was also before I had Super Explosive Wave, which can carry you in a game mode like this. Now before I end this video, all I can say is the one thing I've been looking forward to still hasn't been implemented into the game. So the question I have is, when are we going to get PvP and tournament systems completed? I didn't forget about them and I've also been waiting to hear something about it. It just seems like it should have been a part of the game by now. But that's about all I have for this video. So as always, if you guys enjoyed it, don't forget to hit that like button. Also comment down below what you would like to see in the next video. Most importantly, don't forget to hit that subscribe button and bell notification. It'll inform you guys when I drop videos like these so you can be the first ones to see them. And with that, I'll see you guys in the next one.